It's an often heard saying that running a marathon can be a life-changing experience. Why do we always hear that? I guess because in a large number of cases, it's true. People will start to run, they build up their mileage, and eventually the day comes where they sign up for a marathon. They think to themselves, "Oh my God, what have I done? I'm crazy." They get all nervous. They tell everybody that they've signed up. Yeah, a thing that they were sure at one stage that was completely impossible. They've gone and signed up to do it. And doing the impossible gives someone a different perspective on themselves, I think. And that's why they talk about life-changing experience. Suddenly they have a different level of self-confidence and belief about themselves when they complete the marathon. I mean, some people complete their impossible task, their marathon, and they're sort of a one and done. From a personal point of view, I've found that it's sort of the journey that inspires me. And I want to keep doing that kind of thing for the rest of my life. Race achievements like completing a marathon or competing an ultra run are just ways of keeping it interesting. It's kind of the doing of it all the time in terms of training and going for different challenges that is part of the fun. Some people find this sort of wonderful path to running via a hardship or a health challenge. Today, we're going to hear about one of those, quite a big one, in fact. So hi and welcome to the Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review books written for runners, about runners, and by runners to help you decide if you'd like to read the book for yourself. We also hope that listening to us chat about running can help keep you motivated about your own running, or maybe inspire you to try something new with your running. My name's Alan, and with my co-host Liz, we're going to talk today with author Greg Schnoor about his book, Running Away from Cancer.
Running Away from Cancer is the story of the author Greg Schnoor's journey to becoming an ultramarathoner after he was diagnosed with brain cancer. The thing is that he wasn't even a runner before his diagnosis and started running while receiving maintenance chemotherapy once a month. Greg first started running because his two youngest kids had joined a cross-country running team at school, and he wanted to spend as much time with them as possible. Running ended up making his life better. Greg had more energy and spent less days curled up on the couch unable to move after his chemo treatments. Eventually, he joined a running group and started to run more and more. His journey took him all the way to the 100-mile distance, but it wasn't all smooth sailing all the way to earn his first belt buckle. So a little bit about Greg. Greg Schnoor is a living testament to the incredible power of resilience and determination. He was born and raised in the vibrant community of Pensacola, Florida. Greg's life took an unexpected turn at the end of 2010 when he received a diagnosis of malignant brain cancer, but he has since run 96 marathons and 9 challenging 100-mile ultramarathons. He has not just been defying the odds of his diagnosis, but thriving with the help of running and the running community. So welcome to the podcast, Greg.
Hey, how you doing?
And so I guess we'll just start off with the first question that we usually ask, and that is, how did you decide to write this book? Because we know that writing a book is a huge undertaking.
Yeah, so just my journey through running and through my life after being diagnosed with brain cancer. One of the important things I would find myself doing is making notes throughout my journey. And I wanted to log the information so when my kids get older, they would understand and know my memory of everything going through the process. So that's kind of how it started. And just finally, I was able to start putting sentences and paragraphs together because I had a lot of bullet point lists and notes of all my journey through, the running, just the stories, all the different parts of my life. So that's kind of how it went on.
Okay, I guess we should start with the beginning, because one of the first things you explained is how you got diagnosed with an oligodendroganglioma grade 3 low-level tumor. Okay, that's a mouthful. Following an MRI that you had pre-op for you were
Sinus
just supposed to
surgery.
have sinus surgery. Exactly. So I don't know if you can explain
That must
to
have been a very
everybody.
nice surprise for you going for sinus surgery and then coming up
Yes,
with
it
that.
Yeah.
was. Especially when, it was a school day, I remember, and get a call early in the morning, getting the kids waking up, having cereal, getting them ready for school. I get a call and I knew the voice on the phone. I just didn't know who it was. I was thinking, who's calling me? And I realized it was my ENT doctor. I was thinking, well, why is he calling? It's usually a nurse or someone who would call you if to change appointments or something. And then he broke the news to me that the my sinus surgery that we were supposed to be having like the next day or whenever it was, like it was upcoming, that we needed to cancel it because on the CT scan they did on me to prep me up for the surgery, they found a golf ball sized tumor in my brain. So it was a growth. I didn't know exactly what it was yet. So they sent me to get an MRI and to get a better look at it and see what that mysterious thing was.
Oh, wow. So at that point, you didn't know what it was or, if it was even cancerous or anything like that.
No, just they said it could even be a glitch in the scan, the CT scan. I feel like that's probably more just trying to be positive. My doctor was
Yeah.
towards me, but
Give you little threads to cling to at that
Hmm.
point, probably.
yeah, it was but it's ironic, once I went through the MRI that following week, when I got out the MRI, I could just tell the lady who did the MRI, I could see the look on her face that it
Yeah.
wasn't good. Obviously, I couldn't really ask her and see what it was because she wasn't the doctor, but it was just right off the bat, I knew something wasn't right. And sure enough, that's when the doctor, said it was a tumor, a golf ball sized tumor.
So you've got quite a big family. Were your family just sort of waiting on this at this point, or
Sure.
did you have to shock them with the news?
Right. I think it was a big shock, and then it kind of spread around the whole family because I was a 10th kid. I have 9 older siblings, and then my wife. Then we had the 4 kids together, and then we both have big families. So it just kind of took a while for it to spread out, and obviously we didn't want to provide any false information because we still were trying to understand what
Hmm.
what everything was too. And
Hmm.
this was new to me. I didn't know anything about brain cancer or anything like that, but it's ironic because after that started going on, it seemed like all I saw in the news and everywhere was stuff about brain cancer, and
Hmm.
it's funny how something like that grabs your attention and all of a sudden like
Hmm.
you hear it all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people it's a new car. They
Yeah,
buy a new car. They go, "Oh, this is a pretty new car, cool car. I have not many people have these." And then you start seeing them everywhere because
exactly.
your head is in that space. It's a bit more different, I guess, to a new car having
Yeah.
to deal with those kind of issues. How did you deal with it? And what? I guess there are situations where people get that difficult diagnoses in their life, different types of
Sure.
diseases and problems. Is there any things you would offer as tips?
Sure. So after being, diagnosed, with the tumor, first of all, I had to go through the process of figuring out what the game plan was, see doctors, try to figure out if it needs to have brain surgery, if we need to wait to see what happens. So I learned through that process things I tell everybody I know or people that I get referred to me who's dealing with something like brain cancer or something. The biggest thing I always recommend them is to, don't just sign up with your first doctor. I mean, go and see 2 or 3 different specialists that focus on that specific issue, that specific tumor or whatever it was, and then find the one that works for you, that sounds good, has a good game plan. Because through that process, I saw 3 different neurosurgeons, and it was, you know, I would think that it would all have the same game plan,
Mm,
but
yeah.
they didn't.
Hmm.
Oh.
So, and like I learned that, like, and so from that, like one just wanted to wait to see what happens with it. I'm like, this was by then it was like maybe a month and a half, 2 months after my daughter was born. So I didn't want to wait to see what happened. I didn't want it to grow and affect other parts of my brain. So the second one, he referred me down to a specialist down 5 hours away, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and saw them, and I felt at home there. And so the biggest thing is just get don't rely on just your first opinion. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to be correct or anything. I'm just saying find out what works for you. Just go and get different opinions from different doctors and
Hmm.
find one that fits your game plan.
And did they give you like a rationale for why they wanted to wait? Like, did he think that maybe like it was gonna be slow growing, or I don't know.
It didn't go to a whole lot of detail really, but I was referred to that specific doctor by two different people, completely different people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went and saw him, I had kind of already had made my mind up that I wanted to go to the Shands Hospital, like in Central Florida, but
Mm-hmm.
I still wanted to see him because I had two different people refer me to the doctor in Alabama.
Right.
So I go there, and just right off the bat, I don't want to say it's like the vibe or something, but just I didn't
Hmm.
feel the grace. And then for him to like
Okay.
quickly just want to do the scan and then say the two doctors that work together, they wanted to wait and see what happened. And my understanding from where the tumor was in my left temporal lobe, I mean, it's close to different things. I'm lucky that I had sinus surgery because they caught it before it got worse and got it
Hmm.
affected other parts of my brain. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to
Yeah.
wait and give it time to go and do damage somewhere else. I mean, that just made no sense. So when I saw the other doctors and told them, they agreed. I mean, they're one of the ones that said it too. Like, yeah, it didn't make sense to them. So just
Okay.
Okay.
good the other ones. And plus,
Okay.
the hospital that I went to at Shands Hospital, I used to live there for college, like years ago. So it just made most sense. I had old friends I could go and visit and stuff, so it worked good. I felt at
Okay.
home.
I felt at home. Yeah, I guess that's important when you're,
Yes.
doing
So
medical treatment.
so suddenly you're facing, a serious operation, and then what shocked me, I guess, was chemo seemed to be going on for years after that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I guess I'm used to all the discussion on something like breast cancer, where you
Yeah.
Sure.
get an operation, then you get 6 weeks of treatment or something, and then
Right.
you get an evaluation after that.
So a lot of the brain cancer patients, I don't know how it is now, but
Hmm.
the chemotherapy is a pill type called Timidor. And that's the kind that like a majority of the brain cancer patients would use. And that's what I was on 1 week out of every month. And they had going through the whole process of the maintenance part. It was maxed up to the highest amount that I could take. So I was on
Yeah.
that for just about 4.5 years until my oncologist, put it to quits because it was everything was going good, and staying on chemotherapy that long can cause damage. It can start
Mm-hmm.
doing damage to you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it took me off. And thank God everything's been good. Nothing's been growing since then. So I still think it's the running is why it affects a lot of that.
And do you know, I don't know, maybe you don't want to think that far, but did he say like what would happen? Could you potentially go back to that chemo treatment, or is that like pretty much that option is done?
So when I first started, when all this started, I remember even like the brain surgery back then in I guess 2011, 2010, 2011, that back then they wouldn't even do surgery in that same spot. I remember. And like I guess I don't remember if it applies to, chemo and radiation too. I'm not exactly sure. But after a couple of years, they had made improvements through treatment where they could do it. I remember
Hmm.
my oncologist back then, she had said that back then. So it was like, so things have progressed over the years. So
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly how long they said back there. I mean, thank God it's been a
Yeah.
good time from now.
Yeah. Your current information on what might be available to you is probably out of date, and
Sure.
Yeah.
thank goodness for that. It's well behind you.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same for breast cancer, actually. Like, what was around in 2010, I mean, that might did not be like so relevant anymore.
So anybody faced with that, I guess would realize that they've got this huge challenge in front of them, and they've got to really. I think if I was faced with a challenge like that, I'd be thinking, okay, I gotta hunker down at this point. I gotta conserve my energy. But you seem to have started running after your diagnosis. It wasn't like you were a runner and you wanted to keep running.
Sure.
You sort of started afterwards. This I
Sure.
think people, even runners like us, would be looking at that and going, "Woo,
That's
Right.
brave.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's courageous."
So 1 year after dealing, with the treatment and everything, I got to the point where the chemo, it would knock me out on the couch. And I would be curled up on the couch, my eyes closed, but I wasn't sleeping. I was just, it wiped my energy out. I was just curled up. But then it was actually my two older stepsons who started the running club.
Ah,
And
okay.
so I would start going with them, to take them there because my wife had her two younger ones, and we'll go around the neighborhood, and I'd go with them just so they can go and do the running, and then I would try to run down the street to the mailbox, and I can even run, maybe 4 houses down to the mailbox without walking. But as it kept going, I was finally able to make it to the mailbox, and then I was finally able to make it like to the curb, like way down the street. And then it just, not only did I keep going, but it gave me energy, instead of just staying on the couch. And that kind of fueled me. And I just wanted more of it. So I just kept going. And then once they started doing their first 5K, I joined it. And then it just kept going. Then we all went on this one 5K down that supported brain cancer research. So, and that was the first 5K I'd ever did. And I was pushing my son in a stroller, my younger son. And as I pushed him, I wasn't able to run the whole way because, like I said, it took me a while to build up where I could even run to a mile. I couldn't complete the whole 5K, but it was fun. It gave me energy, it gave me life, it gave me a reason to keep pushing forward. And the more I ran, the less I was curled up on the couch. And it was like a big moment, like, it's like a change of life, and I wanted more of it. So I soon started running by myself instead of just with the kids. And I could do the full mile, I could do 2 miles. Finally, I could run 5K by myself. Then it got to the point to where each Saturday I would try to go a mile further. If I couldn't make, say, 4 miles without walking, then I would do the 4 miles again the next weekend. Then it just kept going. Then I could do four, then I could do five, and six, and it just kept going. And now I'm actually
So,
at 90. I'm at 97 marathons right now. It's
oh
been
wow.
less than 10 years. And
Oh wow.
9 of those are 100-mile runs. So it's funny how like I couldn't go to the mailbox 10 years, or I guess a little over 10 years.
Yeah.
And now it's just progressed and I feel healthy, and I have a reason to move forward.
And actually, you were actually implementing good training theory in the beginning when you didn't just always like go further and further. You were like, "Oh no, I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
so I'll just repeat this training cycle."
Get
That
up
was
on a
very good.
plateau, consolidate on a plateau,
Yeah.
move on from there.
Yeah.
We need to just press the stop button and just go, okay, public service announcement from Running Book Reviews. Anybody listening to this podcast at any stage who now thinks, oh, I could never do that running thing, it's just not for me. Okay, all of your excuses, all of your rationale, all of your reasons have just been removed. Please accept that it is a choice. You have made that choice. You may think you can't do it, but you can. If
Sure.
our boy Greg here is doing that after brain cancer, after brain surgery, man, what's your excuse? Yeah, that's all I would say. So be motivated by that.
Sure. It's crazy how something so negative can turn into something so positive.
Mm.
And that's what the way I look at it. I just try to stay positive through life because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, a plane could come and crash into my house right now while we're having this podcast.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen in life, so make the best out of it.
Yeah, but we used to call that at work beer truck scenario. What if you get hit by a beer truck? I don't know why it's a beer truck. I
Yeah.
guess it's kind of nice. It's got beer on it, so it's kind of you can talk up at a horrible event because it's got beer involved with it. But I don't know. So at this stage, if you're starting to run, is the running? Do you think the running's a physical thing? You're getting some physical, or is it a mental thing? It's giving you belief.
It's giving me both. It's
Okay.
to me, my running was more like a both a physical and like mental medication for me to deal with things. And it really pushed me forward through not just the medical stuff, but the mental side of things, dealing with, when all that was going on, I still don't know the what's going to happen in my next MRI. What's going to happen? Is
Yeah.
it is it growing?
Mm,
And as your treatments and the MRI scans continue, those last weeks building up to your next scan, it starts intensifying,
yeah.
because like, okay, here it
Mm,
comes. And it's just a whole process of it. But just moving forward, it released all the, any kind of stress or negative thoughts. And you're being out, as you guys know, running out in nature, and you're in true running in the true nature in the world instead of being cooped up worrying about negative stuff in life.
hmm it seems like, okay, so you got into running, so that was the first huge step. And then you enjoyed running and you ran 5Ks. And then, like, eventually, we're maybe halfway through the book, and now you want to complete an ultra marathon. I mean, so, how did you, first thing was, what is it about the 100 mile? I mean, I know it's not the belt buckle because that's a heck of a lot of work to do for a belt buckle. So what is it about the 100 mile distance that's so special? Because, um, like, you're not alone for sure. There are other people that are working towards that same goal, but it took you many tries to get
Yes.
that first one. And yeah, just what is it about that?
I guess just first and foremost, I guess as I journeyed from like the marathon distance up into the ultras, I guess running out on the trails, that's just is more it became more of an adventure to me. Just
Okay.
going out, enjoying, like I mentioned, like Mother Nature at its finest, running up mountains or, trails, crossing
Yeah.
rivers, and it's just that's life to me. That's really living life. I don't want to sit here, just waiting to die. I want to be out running for life. And that's kind
Yeah.
of why I love them. And just the running ultras to me is like complete different ball game than just running marathons. I don't know, just the team and just running with other, people running it. I mean, there's times where I've met people at one race in one state. It could be at midnight or something. And then a year later, I could be 4 a.m. in some other state. I'll see that same person and we're like, oh, hey, it's just the whole camaraderie of everything. I mean, that's why I love it. It's different. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love marathons too. Don't get me wrong, but just the outdoor adventure side of stuff. I guess it's just the big kid in me.
I get that completely in terms of the feeling you get running trails versus maybe the feeling you get running roads. You get the same physiological type exercise, but I think I don't know the mental thing is entirely different. The experience is almost I don't want to say spiritual, but it's kind of like that. You kind of feel the
Sure.
nature. Liz doesn't understand that. I don't think
Because
I
she
very
thinks she's
much
going to
love,
get she thinks she's going to trip over a tree root or get attacked by a bear.
but it's just like I love the rhythmic pounding of pavement. Like, I just find, like, I like the rhythm. I find like I don't have rhythm in the trails. Like, the
sure,
trails, they're distracting me from running, like, inside myself, I guess. I
sure.
don't know. It's very, Alan doesn't get it, but I know what I'm talking about. I'm sure there's somebody out there.
How about your hearing? Do you like to hear nature outside? Would you rather hear like cars and roads and like work vehicles and
Well, I have to say that, okay, like, hearing work vehicles, not so appealing. But if I'm, yeah, I guess, if I'm running by myself, I usually, have earphones, and
Right.
so
Okay.
I could pick my poison. So I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah. I guess I was reading the book, and we got to the point where you started to dig in hard for 100-mile belt buckle, and you actually don't want to give all the game away, but you fail several times.
Sure.
Fail. Fail is
Sure.
a very inverted comma thing in trying to do a 100-mile ultra. I think that's people don't view them as failures. You just have a go, and what happens happens. So, but at this point in my head, I'm saying, Greg, what are you doing? You're
Right.
trying to recover from absolute life-threatening
Sure.
brain cancer, and you're getting treatment which you need all your strength and your immune system, and you built it up really well by doing some running, and now potentially you're breaking yourself down again. Put the
Yeah.
brakes on, buddy. Just
Yeah.
take a back seat. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Did family members do that, or friends try to do that to you?
Yeah, they did. But in
Obviously
my
didn't work.
mind, my failures of my 100-miler attempts, they're mainly like different issues that were going on, and I took them as learning from them, like learning steps.
Mm-hmm.
Like I realized what I was doing wrong at the one, then I
Yeah,
would apply it to the next one. And
yeah,
that still applies, once I finally finish one, and then I just keep doing them. I feel like I like it more because I learn from it. It's just like
yeah,
learning anything else. So,
yeah.
okay, like next time I know to do this, if
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out it's like a puzzle to me. So like
Yep.
running through and like, for example, the mental side of stuff that would affect you. With marathoners, a lot of them, they'll talk about the wall, hitting the wall. Well, I mean, in a 100-miler, you hit that wall many times. So it's like dealing with it and just the little things in your brain that you can train or just tweak a little bit, I guess, that can like make a huge difference. And that it's impressive to me, like just the little things that you can do to override and how your brain might try to trick you at certain times. I feel like that even applies to even shorter runs too. Sometimes people feel like they have to start walking like early. Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that that's not always, the case or
Yeah,
whatever, but if they can, sometimes they just walk because they feel like their brain's telling them that, but they can keep going if they
yeah,
really wanted to.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, my mantra at my sub 3 hour marathon success, my mantra for the last 2 miles was keep going. Your brain is messing with you.
yeah,
It's trying to make you stop. It's trying to fool you. The language I used was a little bit more severe than that, but
sure.
just because I was near the end of the race. But um, I understand perfectly that yeah, that exists.
That's what happened. So my first 100-miler, that's what I did with mine. I just had a simple one-word phrase I would tell myself. Each time the negative thoughts were coming out, I would just say, nope. And that did it the whole time. And it got to the point where after I kept using it, as soon as like my body's telling me I need to stop or I need to walk, or I just said no, and I was fine. It's like my body listened to me. It was like, okay. Like, and it was like so simple. And it was so interesting to me that throughout the night, I was like cracking myself up laughing because it was so easy. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Your
yeah,
mind is a amazing thing to work with. So I guess that's another reason why I like doing the hundreds, because it's exploring other things.
yeah.
So,
People say
Hmm.
it's a mental. I've never done one, but I've done
I've never done
100K.
one either.
That's my longest 100K. But
Yeah.
people say it becomes a mental process.
yes, definitely.
So the first 100-mile distance that you ended up completing was actually one that you mapped out yourself, if I understood correctly. No?
No, the first one I completed was Lake Martin. The first time I did Lake Martin, and that was the one
Okay.
where I kept telling it nope.
Okay, okay. So then you did eventually decide to map out your own 100-mile distance and do it
Sure.
with some buddies that ran it with you.
That's correct.
And you got like some like belt buckles made and things like for the finish line, which was like
Right.
really cool.
I
And
can show
I
it to you if you
feel,
want to see it.
oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Hold on.
That's so cool.
I guess if we do video, this will be nice to see.
Yeah. Oh, so that's the one you got made for the one that you mapped out your own route.
Right. And
That looks
That's
better. Looks better than a lot of
that's
official
a nice,
competitions.
yeah,
yeah.
that's a
So
nice
that fort
belt
right
buckle.
there, that's actual fort here at the
Fort
beach.
Pickens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
actually a image, well, that they used for the design is an old, like, historic image of the fort from a long time. I don't know if, like, Geronimo, you guys familiar with Geronimo
Sure.
ever? So he was kept there at Fort Pickens. But so that run is actually a part of the Florida Trail. So Florida has the Florida Trail that goes all through it, and the 100-mile route is a section of it. So I did that whole
Ah,
100-miler.
okay. And so it seems like this is sort of like a popular idea in ultra trail running because you have like a FKTs, which is just fastest
Yep.
known time, and people will just go out like on their own or with friends and decide like, oh, let's try and do this FKT, and they'll have like other friends crewing them and
Yep.
like bringing them supplies along the route. I feel like it's very much the community of trail runners. It seems like they don't necessarily even need anybody to organize anything for them. They can just like kind of organize things for themselves. And I feel like that self-sufficiency is very much an ultra trail world thing. Why do you think that is? Like what is it? Is it that adventure seeking that you talked about earlier? Like is that how
Yes, I definitely think it's the adventure side. And at least for me, I think it's also maybe because I had part of my brain cut out. That might be the side of my brain with my logic, and maybe I don't know better. So, but so that race though, I put it on because it was my birthday, and I think a lot of people do bad decisions. As far when I say bad decisions, I mean like doing 100-milers and like even other ultras. So that was for my birthday, so that's why I set it up. And so it was kind of like an underground 100-miler. Like I only invited like certain groups, and then there was 9 of us that ended up running it. So as it got closer down here in Florida, first of all, July is the worst time to do a race here because
It's gonna be hot.
it's hot.
100
Yeah.
degree heat index, real humid. All the trails are overgrown. It's, snake season, everything.
Oh.
And, we have hurricanes here all the time. So a hurricane had just went through. So I decided it got to the point where it was getting closer, like 3 weeks away. And I felt the need, if I'm going to put on this like underground 100-miler, I need to run the whole route myself just to check it out and see how it goes. So that's why I did it solo by myself. And I had some friends help me out, like
The day before, did it the day before?
what's that?
Just did the 100-mile of the day before.
No, it was like 2 weeks before. So, but I mean,
That's
it was
crazy.
hot. So,
Yeah.
because that last 30 miles, you're at the beach, so there's no shade. So, once we did the group part of it, that last bit, I mean, it was well over 100 and something degree heat index and no shade. And it was really brutal on everybody. But 4 people finished it out of the 9. So,
Wow.
it was an amazing. And I still have, let's see, I have 5 buckles left. If you guys, I'll save 2 for you guys.
If we want to come down and run that route, well, I do
But we
quite
have
like
to run
the
100
idea.
miles to get it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
And it has to
that's
be in July, the worst weather.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really tempting, Greg. But I'm busy.
I-
But I'm busy that day.
well, that last section with the beach running, like that sounds pretty good to me. I like the one with when you have to go in the woods where the snakes are and it's snake season. I'm gonna have to my brain's gonna have to process that a bit,
Well,
but
well, let you know that Fort Pickens, the beach out there is white sandy beaches, but they have big rattlesnakes out there also, and
oh really?
alligators. So
Yeah, I'd probably enjoy that.
yeah,
Having spent years in Australia, where the snakes will actually, kill you much quicker than rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
The snakes in Australia make rattlesnakes look like sissies, but I'm probably not going to take you up on the 100 miles in June.
All right.
I have trouble with the heat.
Yeah. Well, it's
Mhm.
real brutal. Like it's not something I would do every year, but I've been itching. Like I want to do it again already. And like a few other people have talked to me. So I feel like
Oh,
it's
wow.
building back up for another session of it.
I can
So
see you getting like a little bit
Yeah.
excited as
We're
we
just
talk about
talking
all
about
these events. We're
yeah.
just talking about them and you're going,
Yeah.
oh, let's
It's like
go.
Christmas to me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
amazing. Um, okay, so maybe we should backtrack a little bit because before you got into all these 100 milers, or maybe it was about at the same time, but you actually, you've been a race director as well. You set up a race to raise money for brain
Right.
cancer research.
Yeah.
Right.
And then somehow that race got discontinued. So what happened there? Because like,
Right.
you talk about giving it up and um, it left me wondering, well, was there not maybe somebody else that wanted to take it over or anything like that?
Sure. So before I even did my first marathon, regular marathon, as I was building up my distance, that's when I started doing it was called the brain tumor run. Because as I was building up, and doing 5Ks, I was trying to find somewhere around here that raised funding for brain cancer research, and I couldn't find one. So my head, my first thought was, okay, let's start one. So that's what started. It was successful over the 5 years, I think it was of it. We
Hmm.
raised over $60,000 for brain cancer research for 501(c)(3)s. But what happens building it up, each year it would become harder and harder. Well, I mean, it was fine the first probably 3 years, but after that, it was hard to find new people to come to the 5K races because I don't know how it is where you guys live, but there's like so many 5K races like over the weekend and like every
Hmm.
weekend. It's chaos like how many races there are. And it's hard to get people to come to every single one because there's so many of them. So
Yeah.
after a while doing that, and I had my own company working with, and like when I would put it on the 5K race, the brain tumor run, the last 2 to 3 months building up to the race day, it started taking out all my time, like a
Mm,
full-time job, and taking me away from my family,
yeah.
taking me
Hmm.
away from my work. And I don't earn a penny from it. It's all, for the stuff. And people will talk about helping and take it out, but when it comes down to it, a lot of times it never came that, it would never happen. And then
Uh,
just after a while, I had to let it go.
okay.
It was just too much for me. And, you know, people had the opportunity to, but no one really stepped forward. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time like shopping around trying to get someone to take over it too. It's just because
Hmm.
so there are so many 5K races that support good causes. It's not just the
Right.
5Ks. So I understand, and it
Yeah.
got difficult doing that. So that's why I let it go. And it was so hard because all the people and other families I met, who have brain cancer, their family members had. I'm still friends with some of them now. On the sad things, some have passed away. Like my friend Michael, we were supposed to run the Nashville, Tennessee half marathon couple, well, probably been 5 years ago now. But,
Mm,
we booked it, registered for it, and then his brain cancer came back and he passed away. So it's
uh,
like
Uh,
everyone I met through it, it was a great what am I trying to say? It was a great thing going on. I'm glad, but I'm also glad that I'm not sitting there, spending almost half a year working on it too.
yeah.
yeah. No, I hear that it's a big
Hmm.
undertaking to arrange a race. And I mean the truth is that well, over here it's because we have seasons and there are seasons that are not very good for running. So or not good for racing. You can run all through winter and summer, but yeah, we tend to have where all the races are like within the same like 2 months in the fall and within the same 2 months in the spring.
Yeah.
You'll have like all of them. So, people have to pick. And even sometimes, you'll have a race that's two races 10 kilometers apart from each other might be like the same weekend.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I get that.
It's chaotic.
Tough. Yeah.
I really hear you over the organizing the run thing. I organized a run in Australia for a few years, and it really just it often only depends on 3 or 4 people max, and
Right.
all the heavy lifting falls on those people. Um, you know, we're members of a running club in Montreal, and people often say to me, "Oh, why don't you join the committee of the club and be part of you have some good ideas and you've got some good background. Why don't you join?" And what I've always said is, I don't want the thing that I love to become like work.
Yes.
And I could see maybe that happening to you.
Yes, that's exactly it. Especially when it's taking away time from my company, and my kids, my family and stuff.
Yeah.
So once that starts
Mhm.
happening, it was time to let it go. But it was great though, because my kids, they'd come and help me. They'd put envelopes together. And
Nice.
we were working hard for everything. Put stickers, like all the other races go around town, put stickers and cards all over everywhere to everybody. I mean, it was a great experience. I'm glad it happened. Also glad that, I'm not having to spend all that time on that right now.
Yeah.
Your radiation treatment as well wasn't without its side effects. You wrote a whole chapter called Shaky Eyes.
Yes.
What was this shaky eyes thing all
So
about?
that was crazy. I was actually training for a 100 miler, the Lake Tahoe Ridge Run over like Nevada, California. And I was at the local gym downtown. I was on a treadmill because we don't have mountains here in Florida. So I was on the
Mhm.
treadmill trying to climb up a mountain, and everything was going good till about maybe the second mile. Just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, my eyes got like real shaky. It was real weird. And I remember I didn't have a whole lot of sleep the night before, hadn't been eating good nutrition. So I just kind of, I stopped, and like when I stopped, it was okay. But like I could walk, but it was still kind of weird acting. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go make sure I'll eat good, I'll rest. So, just go back. And I kind of like wrote it off. I didn't think it'd be anything. But that next morning, I woke up early, got my shoes on, went outside, went to start running down my street at my house. And I mean, it was like 20 feet or so. I mean, almost immediately, as soon as I was started like running and bouncing, it started again. And then it was a concern because I was like, what the hell is this?
Mhm.
Was it like just try and get a feel for what was going on? Was it like your vision stabilization had sort of disappeared and your vision was just bouncing with your movements, or
So it was more so it wasn't disappearing, it was like off sync. So after going through seeing different specialists like eye doctors all over, I had to go drive, let's see, 5 hours to find a specialist, an opto-oncologist. I'm trying to remember the exact wording for him, but
yeah.
basically what it was ended up being a long-term side effect from the radiation. And what they explained it as is as your eye, basically my eyes got off sync with what I'm trying to view. So they were like slightly off sync. So imagine like, my hands like, going like this, it would like be slightly off. So it caused
Okay.
all
Mhm.
the shaking. And it basically happened whenever my head was like bouncing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I could sit there and drive, and I was okay because my head wasn't bouncing.
Hmm.
But if I start like uh
Running.
like running, or even like walking fast or hard or something, it would bounce. And also it would kind of trigger it if it was like bright lights. It would kind of affect it when that was going on. So when I would go to stores, like the marketplaces or anything, I would have to like not look up at the sky. I mean, at the lights above. I'd have to wear my hat down low so it's not affecting me. And then
Mhm.
even once I started walking around the neighborhood, I'd have to like look at the road. I couldn't like look forward and look up in the sky. I had to, when I was walking, I'd have to look down at the road and like walk that way. But like They said it was a long-term side effect from the radiation. Had two different doctors diagnose that. So after like, if I forgot exactly how many weeks it was, but it slowly went away. And they had told me that, expect it to happen later on in life to come back. It was just a weird long-term side effect from it. I forgot the
Hmm.
exact name of what it's called, but that's what they said it was.
Oh, wow. That sounds so unpleasant.
Well, it was crazy. I mean,
Hmm.
hopefully it doesn't happen again, but if it happens again, it does. I learned face, look down, get away from the lights. Also had
Mhm.
a PT, a friend that she's a PT here at one of the running areas, and she helped me do these different things with my neck and stuff. That kind of it helped it some. I think that's why I was able to start walking some. But the biggest thing was just the combination of the lights and the bouncing head, and that
Okay.
it was just crazy because, like I said, I wasn't expecting that, and out of the blue it happens. But I mean, that's life. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's a good segue to, you had health challenges, but you also had other challenges. So, you had some people that you were close to pass away, like
Right.
your father and your godmother, and
Yes.
you
What a
went through a
crazy.
you went through a divorce, and all through that you've run through that. So how does running help? Because I mean, we know that, running is not a miracle cure for anything, but it can help a lot of people in a lot of different situations. So,
Sure. So to me, running has been a great medication, like I said, physical and mental. And when another crazy part of my life, my godfather, I'm sorry, my father and my godmother, some of the biggest important people in my family, they passed away. Technically, it wasn't the same day, but it was. And what I mean by that is that my father, he was in hospice. He was about to pass away, so we were waiting for it any day. So in the morning, that morning when it happened, I got a call like 4 in the morning from my brother saying that I was expecting him to say that dad had passed away, but I answered the phone and he's saying that Diana had passed away, which was our godmother. I'm like, what? Yeah. It's like, you mean dad? He was like, no, Diana. We weren't expecting her to pass away. She had some heart and breathing issues, and she ended up passing away that morning. By the end of the day, before I went to bed, my dad passed away. So it was like
wow.
two major figures in my life passed away. I mean, technically, it wasn't the same day because my dad passed away at like, I think it might have been like 1 a.m. or something. But I
Yeah,
woke up
within a day period. Yeah.
correct, waking up with my godmother and then my dad passing away. So stuff like that, it helped me a lot with the running. I was able to escape it, I guess, or just hitting the road and just let my thoughts kind of run through my brain and just my thoughts of everything. And I really truly feel if it wasn't for running, I probably would have been sitting there thinking of all the negative things and not thinking about all the positive. And that's it. Same way I dealt with through, getting divorced and dealing with other issues like, I had a sister pass away later on, my brother, one of my brothers. So just each time, it's just I feel like it's and my friend Michael who had brain cancer too. It's like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to me, I feel like it's a good medication, on the mental side of things because you never know what's going to happen in life. I'm thankful that I'm able to go outside and be active instead of my siblings that they both passed away from different types of cancer. So you know it's just you never know what's going to happen in life. Make the best of it. If I can go outside and enjoy Mother Nature, I'm going to do it instead of just being glued on the couch watching TV or so. That's kind of pushes me forward through life.
And
Cool.
in terms of running, like you've done now, it seems like you've got the bug of the 100-mile distance, but do you still do the shorter races? Do you still go and participate in 5Ks and 10Ks and marathons?
So I'm a pacer for the local running store, and I've been
Okay.
pacing for I don't know 6, 7 years or so. So I'm actually pacing right now on some of the groups for a marathon, which is actually in January. But yeah, so I still do that, and and I did a marathon. I guess it's probably been 4 years ago. So my dad, he's buried up in Washington, D.C., in the Arlington Cemetery. So I did the Marine Corps marathon there, and it finishes in Arlington. So I have a big family, so there's probably between 20, 25 or so of us that all went there. So we all went there, and like after I hit the finish line, and it finishes in Arlington Cemetery, we all got together, gotta go and visit our dad. And
That
like
must be quite emotional.
it was,
Mhm.
yeah, just thinking about it is just amazing. But yeah, so I still do marathons, and I really just love the pacing side of stuff too. And I'll pace, it doesn't matter what speed pace. Like I've been jumping around this session right now. I've been different pace groups. I've done slower groups. I've done like not super fast or anything, but I've done like, 4 hour, 3:30 groups and stuff. So
Mhm.
it varies, and I love running. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, and but yes, I still do regular marathons. Now, I don't think I've signed up for a 5K in a long time, just because
Okay.
I mean I'm usually running a lot farther, and I'm usually busy on the weekends too. But I can't think of. There's a 15K race here that the last time I was building up my distance and my speed to try to qualify for Boston Marathon.
Mhm.
And as soon as I started getting my speed up good, then COVID hit. So then
Uh,
everything went
Oh,
down. So then I just jumped back to doing like the ultras and started going slower but farther. But I'm
okay.
slowly right now trying to get my speed back up right now. So I'm nowhere as fast as you guys, but
So I guess Boston Marathon is in your is something that you'd like
to-do
to do.
list.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
bucket list.
definitely. Yeah, it is. I would say for sure. I just like going on journeys. I want to hit some of these marathons, other ones. Like one of the ones I'm looking at too is like Big Sur. Something about it. I just want to go and do that over in California. But then I have like 100-mile race next month actually in Florida, the long haul 100. And
Wow.
I like it because there's a big group of people that I know from like different areas. A lot of them happen to all be doing the same race together. So I'm looking
That's
forward to
amazing.
it.
It seems to me like reading your book that you almost sort of through this 100-mile effort and then learning and then reapplying and then learning and then reapplying, you almost built, I wouldn't say a perfect blueprint for doing it, but for yourself a really good blueprint because you sort of learned through several stages and
Sure.
got to a point where you almost had your blueprint worked out, how fast you should pace, what you should eat, where you should stop, how not to get too ego conscious, when to slow down, all that stuff. And when they were then able to sort of, you never see you cracked it, but you almost sort of cracked it, and you figured, well, you got an algorithm worked out, which kind of gets you to the end of a 100-miler. Um,
Sure.
have you been tempted to then maybe kick on and go for, I don't know, Lake Tahoe or Lake Tahoe 200 miles or Moab 240 miles?
Yeah. So speaking of
Yeah.
that, so now some of my other like 100-miler friends here in this area, a lot of them have been doing 200 miles. My friend Mindy, she just did Moab 240,
Oh,
and
wow.
Okay.
it's like the 100-miler isn't a big deal anymore. It's like
Oh my
it's
gosh.
like the half marathon now. It's like wow. So, but yeah, I mean, I would like to do Badwater,
Oh,
like because
yes.
after running the event I put on the underground one in July, I mean, it's hard. I
You're
mean,
getting,
it's brutal.
you're getting
I
heat
mean,
trained, well heat trained for Badwater attempt, I guess.
right,
Mhm.
and like that. Actually, Mindy, who just did, she just did Moab. She was one of the four finishers with us. So,
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
it's
I
I
guess
mean,
in Florida, you guys are used to the heat, so that wasn't too much of a challenge. Like you can acclimate to that because I mean that's where you live. You live
it's
in the heat.
yeah, it's more than just heat. Like in Florida, it's the humidity mixed with the heat that makes it
Yeah.
like it's just it's brutal. It's like a sauna, you know. But yeah, it just it adds to it. But yeah, I would totally go further. I think I know. it's one of those things where I have to think about it. It's not like I was just want to jump on it, but
Yeah.
my interest is definitely there. I would totally, biggest thing for me, like some of these races, they start getting really expensive, and then you start adding the
Mm.
travel, then you have to have
Mhm.
like a big
Yeah,
crew and all kinds of
yeah,
stuff.
you've got to pick your moments. That's for
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like you can't do them all in the same year, that's for sure.
Sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like I did Bryce Canyon earlier this year. I did like Antelope Canyon 2, 3 years
yeah,
ago. I'm gonna do Zion next year.
Bryce Canyon's on my to-do list.
Yeah, it was awesome. It really was. Highly recommend it. If you've ever been to Antelope Canyon, I really like
Okay.
that one. Just running through the desert, then you run through the slot canyons, Horseshoe Bend, Lake Powell. It was an amazing race. But one thing
Wow.
too that we hadn't discussed about, I thought I'd mention, uh, my first marathon. Do you guys remember that part when I trained for it and I didn't finish it?
You ran but collapsed near the end.
Right.
You thought you
Alan's
had
got that noted in his notebook.
All right, sorry to bring that up.
a virus.
No, definitely bring it up. Like
Yeah.
because I know like the
And
so for me,
then 3 months later you had another try in Georgia.
Yep, that's correct.
Think I'm not reading your book.
No. I was surprised no one mentioned that. They jumped up to all the 100 milers and like my first attempt for my first marathon, I didn't finish.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I think it's because the 100 milers for me, like it's hard to wrap my brain around them. So whenever somebody
Yeah.
starts doing all these multiple 100 milers, then
Yeah.
my brain just goes into overdrive, and I'm like, like why? Why would you?
yeah,
And so many tries, and tell us all about it.
We've
But
done
yes,
lots of
tell us.
marathons, so we go, okay, marathons,
yeah, what's a
yeah,
marathon?
But definitely, yeah, tell us about this first marathon because I mean that should have, that would have put some people off, and I bet
Right,
your family was
right.
probably slightly concerned when that happens.
Yes. So I thought I'd mention that real quick just because,
Sure.
that could have easily been the end of my running right there.
Yeah,
I got into running, go to do my
yeah.
first marathon, and I collapsed like maybe just over a quarter of a mile from the finish line. I didn't even finish. I got taken by an ambulance in a gurney, felt like my legs were broken. But and then I remember the race director calling me, see how I was doing, and asking me if I would, if I was done with trying to complete my first marathon. And then obviously I told him no, and then that's how he told me about the other marathon coming up like 3 months later, and I completed that. But it's just it's interesting in life, because I could have easily have finished it right there, and no telling where I would be at right now if that would have
Mm.
been the
Yeah.
case.
I wonder if that race director, he was probably instrumental in keeping you running. It's almost like, the universe put him on your path at that moment
Yeah,
because you were, supposed to
so
continue.
So it's ironic because the race director, him and his wife, they own the running store here in town. And it's 2 miles exactly from my front door to the front of there. So I run there all
Okay.
the time. Ran there this morning. But they're the ones that do the marathon training program. They helped me with the brain tumor run. He gave me the 100-mile route. Like, so
Wow.
it's just a lot of different connections. Running Wild in Pensacola, and they have a store in Alabama too. But they're amazing. I mean, they really. I owe a lot to them. It's not that they force me or anything. It's just the fact that those options are available and they're
Yeah.
there to help out. If
Yeah.
it wasn't that, if that store wasn't that close to my house, I probably wouldn't have been running with them either. It just happens to be my kid's school was right like maybe two buildings down from them, so like a tenth of a
Yeah.
mile. So I remember I didn't even know what Running Wild was. I thought it was some other kind of like adventure store,
Yeah.
because there was a show that had just came out back then called Running Wild, like a some kind of like hiker thing. But it was crazy. So yeah, Running Wild definitely
So
made a big.
shout out to Running Wild running stores. If you're anywhere near one of the two Running Wild stores, get in there, keep them alive, buy some
Yeah.
shoes, buy some gear. They deserve it. They give a lot to the community and obviously have helped you a lot, Craig.
Sure.
So, what is your favorite distance to run right now?
Favorite distance?
Yeah. Let's say for racing, like I guess, you probably have 2024 race season planned out. So what distance do you have the most of in that race season plan?
I really don't. I only have a couple really right now that's scheduled, but the other ones will come kind of depending on the other ones. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess I would say maybe a 50 miler I like, just because that's just
Hmm.
far enough to go
Yeah.
like explore trails, be adventurous.
Yeah.
But if I have to fly or travel far, I'm not stuck there all night and then
Yeah.
drained out sleeping before I
Hmm.
fly back. So I think I kind of like the 50 milers because that's just, you can start in the morning, finish right around, when the sun goes down and
Yeah.
you can still enjoy your time and not just pass out for the rest of the trip.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Have you done any multi-stage events where you do several days in a row, but
I
you
have
get to
not.
sleep in between?
Yeah.
I have not, but I thought about that before, kind of like how like Moab is, to do
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I have not though. I'm not ruling it
Yeah.
out. I just haven't journeyed that way yet.
Worth a look. Liz and I did an event called Moab Run the Rocks, where there was 3 consecutive days through some of the national parks there.
Nice,
And the nice thing is you're not having to run through the night and get too smashed. You get
nice.
to go off and have a
Yeah.
meal, go and sleep, and get up the next morning, turn up at the start line, and go continue your journey. Just
Yeah,
fun.
I think I had some other friends that did something like that. That might have been the
Yeah.
same one.
There's a really popular one because the same organizers, they put on the Trans Rockies Run. That one is
Colorado.
quite popular. That one is 6 days, I think. Is that right? With 120 miles
Hmm.
for the 6 days, I think.
Maybe
Something
it's
like
too
that.
tame for you, Greg.
Yeah, it might not be extreme enough, but like for, like me, that format is great. I get to sleep in between. Um, you know, you run anywhere from, I don't know, half marathon distance to like maybe a marathon distance every day. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I like that format.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
What does your family make of all this running that you do? Do they think you're amazing, or do they think you're a complete nut?
I mean, especially how has it changed over the years? Because when you started, you were in treatment for cancer, so they might have been a little concerned.
Right,
But now you're not in any treatment, so maybe their opinion has changed. So
right.
how has
So
that been?
I think it's probably a mixture of both, but more so now over all the years now. I think they're kind of accustomed to it. They understand now. Because especially after that first marathon, when I got taken by the ambulance for my first marathon, and now I'm
Hmm.
doing 100-mile runs, and then, it took me a series of 100-mile runs until I finally finished the first one. So I'm sure all this built up within my family concerns, but I think they've seen how continuing on has just been beneficial to my life and stuff. Everything's going good. My health is good. I feel like as long as my scans look boring looking, like my doctors
Mm-hmm.
always say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing it because I feel like why fix it if it's not broken?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why break a winning formula? Yeah.
Right.
exactly. What about your kids? Are your kids are they still runners? I mean, they joined the cross country, but did they
Okay, so
continue with that?
like back then, that was my two older stepsons. They were younger in elementary school.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
one of them lives in Salt Lake City now, in Utah. The other one, I mean, he's like 23, 24 now. So they're all older, doing their own lives and stuff. But I will be seeing the one in Utah when I go to Zion. I'm gonna go and fly in, visit him, and then drive down to do the race. But my younger two, I mean, say younger. So they're almost as tall as me. I mean, there's 14 and 13. And when they were a little younger, they would run some, but now, they're high school and middle school, they're doing their own thing with their friends. So
Yeah.
they're not
Okay.
runners now.
They'll probably
They
come
could
back
be,
to it.
but
They might come back to it, yeah.
right. I mean, they're definitely active some, but they're doing their own things with their friends.
So, with respect to your book, it's a self-published book. would you like to direct people anywhere in terms of where to get a copy?
Sure. So I have, I guess you could call it a blog, but a website is called runningawayfromcancer.com. You can go there and it just has links to go to it on Amazon, or you could just go to Amazon directly and just do a search for it, Running Away from Cancer, and it will pop up there. I have the paperback, the hardcover, the Kindle, and the audio version on Audible, and it's on like Apple and other versions
Okay.
also.
So if you just type that in, you'll get straight to it. And what about if they want to follow you? Are you a social media person? Do you have
Well, they can find me on
links?
Facebook and stuff.
Okay.
I have Instagram, but I don't use it a whole lot. I just like feed off the Facebook. But then my website, I need to update it now. My last 2 or 3 distance runs, but I usually try to log all my runs, and that's kind of how it started too with the book, because I didn't want to forget about all my runs, so I would log them and do all my Strava stats or Garmin
Hmm.
Connect and map everything out or like log everything just so I don't forget. Because I mean, I did have part of my memory cut out, so I didn't want
Yeah.
to forget anything, and that way I can like my kids can access stuff later on and see how crazy their dad really was.
Yeah. Do people make
Our
jokes about your or I don't know if this is politically correct or not, but do people make jokes about the fact that you've had some of your brain removed?
Oh
Oh,
yes,
no
yeah,
wonder he runs 100 miles. He's only got part of his
yeah.
brain.
Yeah, all kinds of jokes, and I use it all the time now too. But although people don't go with it anymore because like forgetting stuff. I mean, I do forget a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong, just like everybody does. But
Mm.
I
Mhm.
am missing you know, part of my brain, and it's on my left temporal lobe, which is my side of my memory too. So
Okay.
So basically, you at least have an excuse when you forget something that you were supposed to get at the grocery store. Whereas, like the rest of us, we
Yeah.
just have to fess up and be like, yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot. I
Forgot.
wasn't paying attention. I didn't look at the list.
yeah, but it's been great though. I mean, it
Mm.
really has been a kind of like a blessing in disguise. I could have easily went a different route with it,
Yeah.
but just trying to stay positive and push forward through life. I mean, I learned from it too. It's not just that I'm just trying to showcase it to try to like sell a book. It's more so people, to me, I feel like they overlook things that they can do in their life and
Mm.
think about the positive things and focus on that. Don't let all the negative things affect you, because you never know what's going to happen in life. Make the best of it.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting around waiting to die, live your life. So that's kind of where I just try to keep pushing forward through it all.
That's a pretty good closing comment.
I know.
Don't
Yeah.
sit around, wait to die. Get out there and live your life.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just give our overall general opinions on the book. I don't know if you wanna stick around and listen to that. Um,
Sure.
Yeah, we
yeah,
might say something that you disagree with.
right. Yeah,
Me
you can
first?
debate it. Yep, go ahead.
You don't have to have a life-threatening brain tumor to get out and appreciate running. But this book is a good story about overcoming what doesn't seem possible. Doing something that seems to be impossible, like I started with at the story at the front. If you think things are hard, just read this story and it shows you what is possible in your life. It's a great insight into how running can help in many ways, even when it kind of seems counterintuitive. You go, okay, you need all your energy, you should just sit there on the couch. No, life's not like that. Read Greg's book, read Greg's story, look at what a difference the running has made for him. In the book there are some great descriptions of sort of feelings of getting out there and running, which are clearly part of your motivation, just how you felt being out in nature and just feeling alive, basically, which is kind of cool to read about. The book also has some black and white photos sprinkled, usually at the start of each chapter. And they're mostly, as I'd say, of nature and countryside, which kind of clearly is a big part of your inspiration. So, an inspiring story and, worth reading if you just need some motivation or some inspiration.
I guess the only things that I can think to add are in terms of relatability. So I think that Greg's book can relate to anybody who's had a surprise, difficult diagnosis, like any kind of cancer, and and all the fears that you get about the future, or fears of missing out on your kids' futures. All those things are very relatable. And then also, if you're an ultra runner and you've been chasing that certain goal, for example, the 100-mile belt buckle, and you keep missing it, well, Greg shares his own story, and how he never gave up and eventually ended up getting that elusive goal. So those two groups of people, I think, would very much relate to Greg's story. And also, I'll just mention the cover photo. So the book has a really great cover photo that looks like it was taken in the Slot Canyons, which is a place that I really want to visit one day because it looks beautiful. He's kind of at the bottom of a canyon, and the light's sort of reflecting off the walls, which is kind of one of those features of the canyons that are pretty spectacular. No two photos will ever be the same.
And we've also just learned that, exclusive to Running Book Reviews podcast, that Greg has some extra belt buckles for his very difficult, hot, humid 100-mile Florida trail run.
Mm-hmm.
We're not promising that he might make them available to you if you take it on, but why don't you just message him and see what he'll offer you? So once again, thanks, Greg, for spending time with us. Really appreciate it, and sharing your story with us now and with the world in general via your book.
Well, thank you very much to both of you, Alan and Liz. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews. Big thanks to Greg for sending us copies of the book and for spending time with us today. And if you'd like to leave us feedback about how we can improve the podcast, or want to suggest a book that you'd like for us to review in a future episode, please leave us a comment on social media. We are Running Book Reviews on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter we are reviews_running. Please also follow us on social media to find out about new episodes when they're released, or you can subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. If you've been listening to us for a while and are wondering how you can help us out, there are a few ways. If you're enjoying the podcast, spread the word. Tell your friends about us, or share a link to your favorite episode with your running partner. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast if that's how you listen to the podcast, or you can also rate us on Spotify out of 5 stars. And you can also follow us on Buy Me a Coffee to get email updates when we have something new to share. So sometimes we share just, little extras or photos or thoughts and those kinds of things. So you can go over there and interact with us that way. That's it for today from Running Book Reviews. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.